Welcome to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Today, we'll show you how to use the spirit of love and self-worth to improve the connections with everyone else in your life. This program is your weekly gift, and it will keep on giving. You'll see. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jean Marie Farish.
Greetings and a hearty welcome, everyone. I hope you're all faring well. I'm Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you from the Voice America Empowerment Channel, shining love light into your hearts and homes to empower your life with love. Thanks to our listeners worldwide who tune in live and on demand. We have a spectacular show today. Why perfect failure matters. The transformative power of setbacks with Paul Padmore. We've all experienced failure, but how can we move beyond it? How can we feel worthy and bounce back? How can failure be used as opportunity? I like to open our show with a befitting excerpt by Theodore Roosevelt, the man in the arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deed could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. I just love this excerpt. So out of pain, suffering, and challenges, we can be victorious. We can create something beautiful, something of value for ourselves and others. And without trying, failing, getting up again and again, we're all the better for it. And our guest today, Paul Padmore, joining us from England, will show us how to reframe our perspective on failure. He will show us just how setbacks can be transformative. Paul is a prominent figure in the realm of social well-being and the creative force behind the captivating podcast, My Perfect Failure. As the host of this thought-provoking show, Paul delivers impactful lessons on the influence of a positive mindset in both professional and personal realms. With a robust background in the industry, Paul currently serves as the head of a customer engagement for a leading behavioral strategy consultancy in London. The mission of My Perfect Failure podcast is to showcase how our setbacks can be the transformative gateway we are seeking to live a brighter, more fulfilled future. I personally regard Paul as a very practical, authentic, and uplifting thought leader with insightful anecdotes who applies his knowledge and teachings in his everyday life. So now, without further ado, I'm honored to welcome our outstanding guest, Paul Padmore, joining us today on our show, Why Perfect Failure Matters, the Transformative Power of Setbacks. Paul, welcome to Love Light.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And I'm delighted to be here and to speak to your amazing audience. So, hello, Voice of America.
And Paul, we welcome our listeners worldwide, and also a special welcome for our listeners who are tuning in from England on such an inspirational and empowering episode. And I must just share, Paul, with our listeners that I was a guest on your amazing podcast, My Perfect Failure. You are an excellent host and a very thought-provoking person. So I really love the opportunity to be on your show, and thanks for all you do to help people transform their lives.
Well, it was amazing to get you as a guest, and we're going to be doing more episodes together. So I'm hugely excited about that and all the conversations that we will have that possibly won't be recorded, but it's lovely to be able to connect with you and to bring energy and insights to other people other than you and I.
Yes, indeed. Well, Paul, I'd like for you to share a little bit about yourself. And of course, it kind of brings me to the question, why My Perfect Failure, as so named for your podcast?
Okay, yeah. So a little bit about me. So probably people can glean that my accent is from the UK. So I'm UK born and bred, which has been wonderful. Got amazing family, got amazing friends, and I've had very fortunate. I've had a good life to date, and I guess done the normal stuff. Raised by a lovely family, went to college, university, then got kind of jobs. I think on the jobs front, I kind of ended up. I don't think it was a passion play, but I ended up getting into digital advertising for leading publishers in the heart of London, and I met amazing people, formed amazing relationships, which I dearly enjoyed, and most of those, not most, all of those guys are dear friends to date. Around 2016, got the opportunity to go and join a startup. It was in a tech space. It was kind of in a similar space that I was in, but it was kind of just sort of a 360-degree shift in terms of where instead of being a publisher, I was more on the tech side. And the people that I was in that tech startup with, we all knew one another. We'd all work with one another. We all had wonderful relationships, and we still do. Although we don't see each other all the time because of pandemic and whatnot, and just people are doing different things now. So I think 2016 got approached. 2017, the start of I guess January, we started. It kind of didn't really go according to plan. We all had these wonderful expectations of what the impact that we were going to have on the market and how we were going to do that. But it kind of never really. There were successes and there were some positive moments, but not to the degree that we needed to kind of really scale, develop, and really have that impact that we all, I guess, thought about and we all dreamt about. So after about 10 months, I got made redundant, and it was, so the actual being made redundant piece was not as brutal as I thought it would be, but it was impactful. The reason it wasn't as brutal was it might have been because I knew that there was a problem in terms of we weren't able to generate the revenue that we needed to do for the business to be really viable. So in startup world, if there's anybody listening out there today that actually works in startup land, they probably can empathize with the challenge in that startup space, because you can really burn cash very, very quickly. So when I actually got made redundant, I was definitely gutted. I think I was equally embarrassed, because I was getting people messaging me that I hadn't seen for a while that wanted to catch up with me to talk about the startup and how it was going. So I had all these emotions going on, and I had to kind of deal with that. I was very lucky that I got another job quite quickly. I got another job quite quickly because of my network. It's always important that we establish and retain good networks. I'd done that over the years, and that stood me in stead, and I got another job reasonably quickly. But what happened after that was I would have these thoughts about how people process setbacks and failures, because I realized that I'd learned in 10 months, more in 10 months than I'd probably done in 5 years, the previous 5 years. But I realized that I wasn't processing. I still had this, I guess, stigma, this shame, embarrassment, I guess, about the redundancy. So I started thinking about people like Oprah, who you'll be familiar with, people like Thomas Edison, very noted, and lots of other people, J.K. Rowling, the list goes on and on. I thought these guys have a different way of processing setbacks. I would explain shortly that I don't particularly like the word failure because I think it's not particularly useful and helpful because of the stigma that I've mentioned. So I decided. So I probably about maybe 6, 7, 8 months. I could be at the gym, I could be at dinner, I could be on the tube, and I would think about how does the lady on the street, how does the guy in the supermarket, how does the person in the gym, how do they cope with difficult moments? I had a concern that if people have setbacks, they don't really. It could stop them. They could view a setback as terminal, and the challenge with that is they will not attempt to actually lead the life that they're actually destined to lead. So I decided that there's potentially a message here. What was the message? I should do something. What should I do? I didn't know at that point. And then I decided that I realized I love listening to podcasts, and I like to talk and listen. So I thought, why don't I make a podcast? Why don't I think about doing that? So that's kind of what I decided to do. And around how the name My Perfect Failure came into play. So I decided that I wanted to do a podcast around failure, and I was struggling to come up with a name. I was struggling, and I'd written probably about 3 or 4 names down which were contenders. And then I remember I was in Chancery Lane, which is in London. I was in one of their WeWorks going to a meeting, and all of a sudden My Perfect Failure, that name came to me. I was literally, a friend of mine was holding the door for me as I was daydreaming about what the name of this podcast should be. And the reason that I wanted as soon as it came to me, that was it. And I had this adrenaline rush. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Then I went on to have the meeting. And the reason I liked the name My Perfect Failure, because I like the paradox, because I think there are opportunities when we have failures or setbacks. And what I want to do with this podcast, and what I'm attempting to do, and what I will continue to do and to grow and to develop, is to really harness that belief and that mindset that when we have difficult moments, there are messages there, there's information there. What our job is to do is to actually look for that, because there's seeds, there's gold there. Once we develop that ability to kind of go after that, examine that, use that, then we've got wonderful opportunity. So that's where I'm looking to go with the podcast, and it's been huge. I started in 2019. I think I published the first episode, and it's been pure joy since then.
Yes, it is beautiful, and you do awesome work with amazing guests. And thank you for sharing that divine inspiration. And also this aspect of failure is kind of a paradox in terms of how you coin the phrase and how you use it in a positive way. And it brings me to the discussion about failure and setbacks. And failure is a hard pill to swallow. You shared, your own personal experience regarding that, and facing failure is, Paul, facing fear. Facing failure it reinforces unworthiness or feeling vulnerable, not good enough. Facing fear is really facing rejection, shame, and embarrassment. So here, reinforcing not good enough, feelings of being unworthy. What are your thoughts about, how to, this whole concept of failure and how we can turn it into something different, into something positive? And I know in our next segment, you're going to talk a lot about your cultivating a growth mindset that you've coined. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, totally. No, I everything that you said, I totally agree with. Failure, unfortunately, I mentioned earlier that I don't particularly like the word because I think it's not really useful. I think it really stifles innovation, opportunity, development. And what I want to do, and my perfect failure is just a small part of the conversation, but an important part of the conversation around how we are able to think more positively about our endeavors, our attempts to do things, whether it be from a work perspective or a personal perspective. I think where we should be with it is that we all have more belief in ourselves. We don't judge ourselves too harshly, or indeed we shouldn't judge others too harshly. One of the things that I think that it'd be interesting what the audience think about this, and indeed yourself, Jean, that when something happens to us, maybe it's you might use the term failure. It can be being made redundant at work. It can be maybe not passing my driving test the first time, or it could be anything. I think sometimes we spend too much time thinking about what other people think, and invariably they don't really think. They're too busy getting on with their own lives. So I think we spend too much time, effort thinking about what other people think, and that doesn't help us. And I think we need to get to a point where we just have a healthier appreciation of our efforts and our endeavors, and we give ourselves some grace and we don't judge ourselves too harshly.
Beautifully said. And I know we have a break coming up, but when we come back, we're going to kind of shed a little light on, such things as, and perhaps the listeners can even think about what failure means to them. We're going to talk about the concept of failure, causes, signs, even the physical, emotional, behavioral aspect and impact of failure, and then proceed in with Paul's amazing growth mindset strategies that will help us become more resilient and get out of the quagmire of failure. So now I think we're ready for a brief commercial break. So stay here on Love Light to learn more about why perfect failure matters, the transformative power of setbacks with our outstanding guest, Paul Padmore, joining us today from England. He's the host of My Perfect Failure podcast, prominent figure in the realm of social well-being. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Announcing Dr. Jean Marie Farish's new book, Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations. This is the companion piece to Dr. Farish's best-selling book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being. Through the new book, we invite you to cultivate a lifestyle of love through daily devotional practices over a 21-day period, following 9 ingredients in the recipe of love. Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations is available on Amazon.com and Balboa Press.
Jean Marie Farish's Center for Conscious Loving, LLC, cultivates a lifestyle of love and wholehearted connections through personal growth, altruistic services, and speaking engagements. Resources include classes, workshops, life care coaching, and creative service projects with an emphasis on cultural arts. Visit the website at drjeanmariefarish-consciousloving.com. That's drjeanmariefarish-consciousloving.com, or click the link on the Love Light show page.
Best-selling authors international, news honors best-selling authors around the globe. Dr. Jean Marie Farish is featured in the newly released issue of Published magazine. To have first access to this treasured resource, go to publishedmagazine.com. Vicki Winterton and Dr. Jean Marie Farish have compiled a dynamic book, We're All in This Together, Embrace One Another, an anthology with 24 highly diverse co-authors who share how to spread the message of love, resilience, inclusivity, and compassion. This book is an invaluable source of uplifting, inspiring, and positive insights for spreading positivity in the world. We're All in This Together, Embrace One Another is available on Amazon.com. Be sure to get your copy today. Dr. Jean Marie Farish is proud to announce the release of her new book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being, available now at Balboa Press. This book will help you master your life and flourish in love. You'll learn how to become a better and more evolved you. Feel good by making life-affirming choices. Deepen your feelings and expressions of love. Tune in love and sustain the change. And flourish in love and find your joy. Visit BalboaPress.com and search for Living in the Spirit of Love and enjoy Dr. Farish's new book today.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are tuned in to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Feel free to connect with our program through email or check out our links on Facebook. Reach Jean at Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. That's Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. And now, back to Love Light.
Well, welcome back to Love Light, Living in the Spirit of Love. And today we are with our outstanding guest, Paul Padmore, joining us today from England, prominent figure in the realm of social well-being, host of the thought-provoking podcast, My Perfect Failure, on our show today. Why Perfect Failure Matters, the Transformative Power of Setbacks. And thank you, Paul, for just sharing, your insights and through your daily life, as you indicated, things that motivated you to really come up with this concept. As we look at people in just regular life, right? We're not just talking about executives or business people or entrepreneurs. We're talking about everyday people, how you're processing failure, how we live with it, how we talk to ourselves about ourselves in a negative way that reinforces failure. Paul, I wanted to kind of talk about the whole concept of it, the beliefs, the underlying beliefs that we have about failure, that sometimes we need to shed that and look at new ways of thinking and being with ourselves.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely question. And I guess to my mind, I want for myself and for others to kind of have a totally different relationship with failure and setback. So it's the relationship where we're able to reframe when something happens, so we don't view it as a stigma. You can imagine, maybe the listeners can as well, if something negative happens when we go out for dinner and we're seeing our friends, it's something that potentially will not, because of the way society is, it's something that we potentially want to hide. We don't really want to discuss because maybe there's a stigma we have there, and that shouldn't be there. It doesn't mean that you kind of have to go and tell everybody about it. It means that we just have to have that confidence and that self-assuredness that as long as we're doing something that is purpose driven and we think it's the right thing for us to do, whether that be career or personal life, then actually there's no shame in having setbacks. If we look at it's easier to use noted people just because everybody's familiar with noted people. I mentioned Thomas Edison earlier. I mentioned Oprah Winfrey. These guys have failed more than the majority of us will ever encounter because they know that it's part of their journey. So it's really, to my mind, it's to be successful, you have to fail. You can't be successful and not fail. So if you're not failing at anything in life, whether it be work or anything in life, we're not going to remotely achieve our full potential. And I'm not saying people to go out there and fail every day. Or I guess what I am saying is that if they've got an ambition or desire, go for it. And if you don't achieve it immediately, which you probably won't, that's actually not a problem. That is your journey. That's the journey that you're meant to be on. The journey isn't meant to be a compelling and a journey worthwhile pursuing is not going to be an easy one. If it's an easy one, then actually you're not going to be doing anything mind blowing or groundbreaking. So if there are bumps on the road, actually what we should be doing is actually examining that information, because there's new information there. Our competitors will be. Our job is to delve into that information and use it to our advantage.
Yes, that's very important. I thought about Edison. I think I read something when he was inventing the light. People thought he was nuts, and he was humiliated. He was humiliated, but he just stayed on task. He didn't care about what they were saying, and look what happened. And I love you bringing that up because, for some people, we're so you can be so externally oriented that you give it all up because someone thinks it's a bad idea, or what are you doing? That's foolish. And we have to stay our course. And one of the things that you mentioned, stay on your journey, stay on your path, because, it may lead you to something greater. And the purpose of setbacks is for you to reflect, to examine what you're doing and go back in and try something different, right? Build on what you have. And Paul, let's talk about causes of failure. It can be, let's say your environmental influences, the wrong mindset that you're going to talk a lot about building a better mindset, habits, bad habits, lack of motivation. And it's important for us to identify those that are applicable for our listeners to move forward with creative planning and a positive mindset and outlook. What are your thoughts? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think there are two types of failures. That potentially we can look at different lenses on it, but we can look at wasteful failure. So wasteful failure is potentially if our timekeeping is poor, if we don't pay attention. Say we need to be at work at 9 a.m. in the morning, but we get in at 9:30 because our timekeeping's poor. So we miss maybe a train, or the traffic's bad on a motorway. So that is wasteful. That is something that we can and should avoid. We have more control over that. So if we've all been late to things over time, some more than others, and what we should be doing is if we need to get up 30 minutes early so we can catch the train that will get us to work at 9 a.m., then we need to do that. We've all seen people in the morning where they're stressed in the morning because mornings are always crazy regardless of where you are in the world. And if we get up just that little bit early, then we will mitigate the anxiety. And maybe if we've got a meeting at 10:30 that we're presenting at, clearly if we're running right on time, we're not giving ourselves the best opportunity to deliver well in that meeting. Also, so 2024, the world is moves at such a fast pace that burnout is a real challenge for many of us. It's a real situation that we have to keep an eye on. So if we're working long hours, if we're developing fatigue, if we have overwhelm at things that generally we would normally have a better control of, then potentially burnouts there. So these are little things that we do have control of, and we should, and that's kind of a wasteful moment, and we all can be victims of that. As I said, that 2024, the world's a really fast-paced environment, and nobody wants to disappoint. We all want to do our very best, and sometimes we think, actually, instead of putting our hand up and saying to our boss or to our partner or to a friend, I'm actually really struggling at the moment, we just plow on because maybe we don't have the right mindset to actually take a step back and say, actually, I do need to speak to someone here. Invariably, it's experience that gives us that awareness to actually say, Paul, I'm struggling here. I actually do need to speak to my boss or my partner because I'm struggling here. Or indeed, we may have a boss or somebody or a partner that might actually say, Paul, you're struggling here. Burnout could be a problem here, or something could be a problem. So that's wasteful failure. And these are things where we generally have some control over. And it's things that, for any of the listeners, that they might have some recognition of some of these in relation to them. Timekeeping could be one. Maybe there's people on this who are listening today that are working really, really hard. They have done for a period of time. Now's an opportunity for them to speak to somebody that they can confide in, and actually they can prevent burnout. There's also intelligent failure as well. So intelligent failure,
can I go back to useful
yes.
wasteful failure? Because I think that's so important. How we spend our time and energy. And you made me think about a collection of wasteful moments can end up being a whole day, a week, right?
Totally.
And ways to really look at ourselves, how we can do things different. And then you brought up that beautiful point, burnout, which brings us to self-care, ways that I need to take care of myself, or maybe it's time to have that well-needed conversation. So thank you for that. So the next one, this is interesting.
Yeah, totally. And I think, thank you for raising that point. And I think with burnout and those types of situations, I do think that we definitely, after we've gone through the pandemic and what we realize how fragile life is and how important it is, that we all should be more mindful about our self-care, because nothing should be taken for granted, and our health, and also making sure that we are living a life that is quality for us. So another I guess failure example could be intelligent failure. So sometimes when things happen, and with ambitious people, with people that are trying to deliver certain things, setbacks and difficult moments will happen. So sometimes when failures happen, what we can do is reframe that situation. So just to give you an example everybody will be familiar with is Coca-Cola. So when Coca-Cola was invented, it actually was invented as a replacement for morphine, but it was going to be delivered served as an alcohol, in terms of how we would consume that. But there was an alcohol ban, so it couldn't be served with alcohol. So they used caffeine as a replacement for alcohol, and then Coca-Cola was invented. So the pharmacist that invented that, initially it was a calamity because it couldn't be served as the original drink, but now it's the most famous drink in the world, and there are lots and lots of examples of that. So when we do have these difficult moments, sometimes those difficult moments can be reframed and something actually positive can come out of those situations.
And useful failures. I think you have a concept about useful failures.
Well, I guess it goes on. Well, I think with useful failures, so really what we should be doing in that is going back to what I was saying before, that we should have the motivation and we should have the belief that we should focus on delivering opportunities and moving forward. And with useful failures, essentially reframing situations to make the very best out of situations. And if we don't have the ability to do that, then we will never see the opportunities that will exist.
That is so true. And the opportunity to reflect, to stop and reflect, how we can improve, if things didn't work out, what useful information can we use as a result of that perceived failure to begin again and take it in, work on the next project and move forward. And to start afresh, and a part of that is really trusting divine timing, divine intervention, being in tune to that divine wisdom that we have.
And just to circle back slightly, useful failure and intelligent failure are they're like identical twins, really.
Okay, all right.
So essentially, they kind of perform the same way. It's really looking for the opportunity that exists within a situation when it hasn't gone according to plan. And it might be that you have a different product, a different solution out of that. And it's having that, I guess, that clarity of thought or imagination, creativity, where something else comes to light from a difficult moment.
And Paul, I think I just thought about what you said when you came up with my perfect failure. That was almost like divine wisdom, when you were thinking about what to name your podcast. And, here, the clarity came, and look at where you are with that whole concept. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes you have those moments. I think intuition is very important, and I don't think we should underestimate the importance of intuition. I think invariably when we feel something in our gut, because I know that when I decided I was going to do the podcast, My Perfect Failure, I didn't really tell many people. I told about 3 people, because I knew at that point my belief wasn't strong enough for me to maybe move forward if I got too many people kind of like, really, podcast failure, is that the bet? Is maybe you should look at nobody's going to really be interested in that. So I literally told 3 people, got everything done, got the name done, got the concept done, built the website, developed a mission, the mission statement, and then I think I even had produced about 20 episodes, and then I published.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Paul, we're going to talk more about that. And then, of course, in our next segment, we'll hear about strategies to move beyond failure, to overcome and, create something beautiful and not look at it from a downside, but more or less building on it, becoming more resilient. And Paul is going to talk a little bit more about the empathy. Yeah, I think we talked about that during commercial break, about what failure did for you in terms of being more empathic, right?
Yeah. Fantastic.
But anyway, yes, so we're ready now for a brief commercial break. So stay tuned for more on Why Perfect Failure Matters, the transformative power of setbacks, with our amazing guest, Paul Padmore, joining us today from England, host of the thought-provoking and captivating podcast, My Perfect Failure. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Dr. Jean Marie Farish is proud to announce the release of her new book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being, available now at Balboa Press. This book will help you master your life and flourish in love. You'll learn how to become a better and more evolved you. Feel good by making life-affirming choices. Deepen your feelings and expressions of love. Tune in love and sustain the change. And flourish in love and find your joy. Visit BalboaPress.com and search for Living in the Spirit of Love and enjoy Dr. Farish's new book today.
I'm Judy Satori. I'm a spiritual channel and activator of human potential. You might have heard me speaking on the Voice of America on Dr. Jean Farish's show, Love Light, because I've been speaking about the challenges that are besetting all of us right now and how we can surrender but also keep on going. I want to invite you to join my new Facebook group that is devoted to heart-centered connection and unity. Through this Facebook group, you can also join my free access question and answer session with Spirit on the first Wednesday to Thursday of every month. Just search Ascension Community on Facebook to join the group. In this session, I answer questions and transmit energy from Spirit to give you guidance and support. Because life on planet Earth ain't easy right now. And there is so much help from above, from beings of love and light, from multidimensional realities who are actually here with us, wanting to step up and support us. I welcome you to become part of our ongoing group conversation about evolutionary change and how it's affecting us as human beings and affecting our life today. Many blessings to you. You can find out more about me and my work at www.ascensionlibrary.org. Have a wonderful day.
Vicki Winterton and Dr. Jean Marie Farish have compiled a dynamic book, We're All in This Together, Embrace One Another, an anthology with 24 highly diverse co-authors who share how to spread the message of love, resilience, inclusivity, and compassion. This book is an invaluable source of uplifting, inspiring, and positive insights for spreading positivity in the world. We're All in This Together. Embrace One Another is available on Amazon.com. Be sure to get your copy today. Announcing Dr. Jean Marie Farish's new book, Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations. This is the companion piece to Dr. Farish's best-selling book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being. Through the new book, we invite you to cultivate a lifestyle of love through daily devotional practices over a 21-day period, following 9 ingredients in the recipe of love. Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations is available on Amazon.com and Balboa Press.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are tuned in to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Feel free to connect with our program through email or check out our links on Facebook. Reach Jean at Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. That's Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. And now, back to Love Light.
Well, welcome back to Love Light, Living in the Spirit of Love. And if you're just joining us, we are with our amazing guest, Paul Padmore, joining us today from England. He's the thought-provoking leader of the podcast, the captivating podcast, My Perfect Failure, on our show today, Why Perfect Failure Matters, Transformative Power of Setbacks. And Paul, thank you for sharing, those concepts about wasteful failures, intelligent failures, whatever, useful failures, to help us really kind of really discern, where am I, as I really look at what failure really means to me. Because sometimes we throw around terms, but breaking it down helps people really apply it to themselves, to look at the signs of how you perceive being a failure, not having the initiative, procrastination, not making sound goals or taking those actionable steps to pursue your dreams, the fear of failure, being focused on what others say, the naysayers, those critics who keep you from moving forward, but it's really your choice. And let's look further at the physical, emotional, and behavioral impact of failure, the stress, anxiety, feelings of powerlessness, loss of control, even avoidance behaviors. And furthermore, the physical aspects. I mean, the stress can lead to all kinds of problems, right? The digestive problems, heart problems, you name it. So it's so important for us to really revisit this concept. And as Paul has, he's sharing with us, trying to help us reframe our whole perspective on failure. So, Paul, you're going to share some strategies for us. So go for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to kind of circle back slightly for the audience, people listening. So just the wasteful failure, intelligent failure, pretty similar in terms of what they are and how they manifest themselves. So just to give people a little bit of clarity there. So with regards to, again, I will say this, but I don't like the word failure because I just think it's very unhelpful. I know I've said that a few times, but I just want to, I guess, reaffirm that. So I prefer the word setback, just in terms of it being more useful and less, I guess, not the same type of stigma attached to it. But that being said, I do firmly believe that there are unique opportunities that exist when we fail, but we do need some tools to help us be more, just to increase our ability to cope with those difficult moments. So having that ability to reframe, to look at a situation and look at the positive, the brain is 4 times more likely to think negatively of a situation. The reason I say that is because the way that I view that is because I still have difficult moments. And when my brain isn't helping me, when it's leaning too significantly into being really, really negative, I realize that that's how the brain is wired, to be more negative. So what I do with that, I use that knowledge, and I think, actually, Paul, that this is where the brain is going to go. Let's come back into the center. Let's think of a way that I can reframe this to think more positively. And we all have that ability. If we know that, which anybody listening now knows, that our brain is wired to be 4 times more negative than positive. So we need to use that insight to our advantage. And just in relation to that, there's wonderful work has been done by Carol Dweck around growth mindset. So it'd probably be useful for me to explain a fixed mindset initially, and then we can look at a growth mindset. So a fixed mindset is essentially when we come up against a problem, we don't see that there's any way around that. So we don't have the ability to learn, think, and move beyond that situation. So say if we, maybe an example might be, if we get lost, actually it's doing a puzzle. Let's use a puzzle as an example. If we are given a puzzle for Christmas and we can't seem, our first attempt, we can't put that puzzle together, we might actually just put that puzzle aside and never ever use it again. If you've got a growth mindset, you will look at we might try, we will try the first time, probably the same outcome. First attempt, we won't get it. But the second attempt, we might not get it. The third attempt, we might not get it. But at the fourth attempt, we would have worked out what went wrong initially in terms of us trying to put it together. And we will take all that information and we will use that. The fourth time, we will be able to do it, or the fifth time. So a growth mindset really leads with that idea that everybody, me, Eugene, everybody listening, we all have the ability to learn. We're all intelligent. and we all have the ability to learn and to develop, and to whatever the challenge is, we can overcome that, even if it means there might be people here that have got businesses who decided, actually, you know what, we looked at the business, we had a go based on the experiences and whatever happened with the business. We decided, actually, this business isn't the right business for us, but it might have led to you gleaning insights that gave you the idea to start a different business. You wouldn't have actually got those insights if you hadn't started the first business. So it's always using the information. So whenever we do something, just use the information. We've all got access to that. And also, I think, which is very important. So on My Perfect Failure, we talk about this lots and lots and lots. Positive self-talk. So if having the ability to be positive and to think positively, and sometimes we can have mentors, we can have coaches that we might have weekly appointments with. Sometimes they're not at our disposal. If they're not at our disposal, we should really think and talk encouragingly about what I'm going to do today. If I've got a meeting today or a presentation, yeah, I can do this. I can deliver. I've done it before. Why can't I do it again? So we should always develop that ability where we can be our own champions. We can be our own heroes. And that isn't something that I think we do enough. Do I do it enough? Probably not enough, but it's something that I'm mindful of, and I do it in the right moment. So in the moments where I need it, where I don't have a Gene to speak to or somebody else, I know that I can coach myself. Also, something that I think is very important is there's a word, I believe it's called interdependence, is how many of us, I've done it, where we suffer in silence, where we think that we've got to take on the world on our own, or we need to deal with every situation on our own without the support of others. That isn't healthy. We shouldn't do that. We should really think about people that can support us. It doesn't have to be, we don't need an army. We might need one or two people. There might be somebody that can help us with our emotional states. You know, if we've got emotional issues where work might be tough, there might be somebody that we can speak to about. I've got a friend that I speak to probably more so about work and those types of things. He's somebody that I've worked with before. We've developed this relationship where we can contact one another when we need that little bit of a pick-me-up, that little bit of motivation. So we're both there for one another. And there might be somebody else I can speak to about maybe fitness. So we shouldn't try and do everything alone. Really look for people either we know or maybe somebody on YouTube or a podcast.
Okay. Well, Paul, we're getting ready to close. Tell listeners briefly how to get access to your podcasts and how to connect with you before we close out.
Okay, lovely. So the podcast, My Perfect Failure, is in all the major directories. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, all the major directories. You can find My Perfect Failure. And also you can find me at www.myperfectfailure.com.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being on Love Light today, giving us a fresh outlook on how to deal with setbacks. It's so encouraging, motivational, and inspirational. And we appreciate you for being here, and we invite listeners to tune in to your podcast and connect with you to go deeper, listen back on demand. Thank you so much. And much gratitude to the Voice America team for making this show a reality and for shining their love light around the world. You know, transcend, ruminate not on the unpleasantries of life, falter not in times of trouble, hard pressed on every side, do not despair. Find meaning in life experiences, summon inner strength, and move beyond self-imposed limits. Dwell in the truth of who you truly are and trust with unwavering faith. Be strong, steadfast, and an overcomer. overcomer. This is Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you from Voice America. And until we meet again, remember, an empowered self is a loving self. And keep your love light shining. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to Love Light this week. Be sure to join Dr. Jean Marie Farish again for another program next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and noon Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Have a wonderful week filled with love, self-worth, and better connections.